All right, again, the southern work. The law of God contained in the Ten Commandments reveals to man his duty to love God supremely and his neighbor as what? Again, this is the spirit of prophecy. The American nation owes a debt of love to the what? Not a debt of hatred, not a debt of resentment, but a debt of what? A debt of love to the colored race, and God has ordained that they should make restitution for the wrong they have done them in the what? Now, did black persons get their 40 acres and a mule? Now, was it just black persons that were demonized by the American establishment? No, you had the Native Americans. Even to this day, Native Americans have not had their civil and religious liberties respected. Not even to this day. Those who have taken notice, those who have taken no active part in enforcing slavery upon the colored race are not relieved from the responsibility of making special efforts to remove as far as possible the sure result of their what? So even as white persons, even if we did not have descendants who were slave owners, was there still a responsibility? There was still a responsibility. Does that make sense? All right. Now, does anybody know who this man was? A man by the name of Malcolm Little. He called himself Malcolm X. Now, do you know that Malcolm X had contact and association with Seventh-day Adventists? We're going to get a practical illustration of this debt of love and how to do this great work of benevolence. Now, what was the nationality, race as it were, of Malcolm X? Was he a white man who had his ancestry in Germany and France? No, he's a black man. Notice this. This says, about this time, my mother began to be visited by some Seventh-day Adventists who had moved into a house not too far down the road from us. Now, in light of this time period, this was, if I'm not mistaken, in the 1930s or 40s. Now, what do you think was the skin color of these Seventh-day Adventists? They were white. Follow. They would talk to her for hours at a time and leave booklets and leaflets and magazines for her to read. Now, the question is, why were these white Seventh-day Adventists doing this to Malcolm Little and his family? They were converted. Yes, sir. They were converted. Yes, sir. This says she read them, and Wilfred, who had started back to school after we had begun to get the relief supplies, also read a lot. His head was forever in some book. Before long, my mother spent much time with the Adventists. It's my belief that what most influenced her notice was that they had even more diet restrictions than she always had taught and practiced with us. So one of the entering wedges to Malcolm X and his family was the health message. Now, do especially a lot of our black Americans tend to struggle with their health? Yes. Do you think that the health message is something certainly that all Americans need, but especially our black Americans? Yes. Like us, they were against eating rabbit and pork. They followed the Mosaic dietary laws. They ate nothing of the flesh without a split hoof, and that didn't chew the cud. We began to go with my mother to the Adventist meetings that were held further out in the what? You see, these were real Seventh-day Adventists. For us children, I know that the major attraction was the good food they served. So these white Adventists were not only benevolent, but they were throwing down when it came to the food. But we listened to, there were a handful of Negroes from small towns in the area, but I would say that it was 99% white people. The Adventists felt we were living at the what? Do we still believe that in this day and age? Unfortunately, we don't. At least not the way we should. That the world was soon coming to an end. Notice, but they were the friendliest white people I had ever seen. Now, brothers and sisters, is that serious? The reason why Malcolm X felt that they were the nicest white people was because he genuinely saw Christ within them. It doesn't matter what the prejudice is. If we have Christ abiding in us, will this break down prejudice? Yes, it will. And it's amazing that he could say that, especially with some of the things that he used to say about white people. Now, by the grace of God, he had a little bit of a change towards the end of his life, but at least he was able to say that those white Seventh-day Adventists were the nicest white people that he had ever met. Brothers and sisters, do you think that there is a great burden and obligation still to the colored people? And not just to the colored people, but is it to all peoples, nation, kindred, and tongues?